24, 23. So
That's good. Galatians 5:22. Yeah, that's the meat of it. And we've learned about which fruits have we discussed so far this fall?
Joy.
Peace. And what do we remember about peace from last week? I think the two ladies, Minister Kim and Minister Leandra, categorized the types of peace that is associated with Jesus. Does anyone remember that? We learned that there's a peace within us, right? Inner peace. And Jesus, the inner peace that we have comes from Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't have the peace of the world. But they also discussed another type of peace, some sort of peace that we have with God. You guys remember that? Obedience. Not obedience, but before we were saved, the Bible terms people before they are saved as children of wrath. So the wrath of God was on us prior to being saved, right? Mm-hmm. And so Minister Kim and Leandra, they defined for us that we no longer have the wrath of God. So we have peace with God. Remember that? How they brought that up? So we have inner peace, and then we have peace with God because we're no longer his enemy. We are no longer children of disobedience. Okay? So tonight, Deacon Linda and Sister Angela, they're going to talk to us about endurance and long suffering. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm going to turn it on over to them. Thank you, ladies. Okay. Okay. What do you want? Right here, because I can't stand it. Okay, that's fine. Oh, first I'd like to say good evening to everybody, and today has been a day for me. Just got off the dialysis machine, but I'm here.
Amen.
That's huge.
Endurance.
We're gonna talk about endurance. We're gonna talk about endurance. But the title of this lesson is A Test of Endurance, Long Suffering. And I'm hoping that as we go through this lesson tonight, that you all take away from it what I did. Because there were just things I didn't know. And I thought I did, but there were things I just did not know about long suffering, perseverance, patience. So I'm hoping that you all can take away some of the things that I took away from this lesson. The first thing, it says in the Bible, patience means cheerful endurance. It is waiting on God and enjoying the wait with anticipation. For you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. For whatever things were written before were written for our learning, that we, through the patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. Now may the God of patience and comfort grant you to be like-minded towards one another according to Jesus Christ. And as I was studying, that was just something that stuck out to me. I loved it. It's found in Romans 15:4 and 5. I looked up these words: patience, long suffering. One came out of Thayer's Greek English lexicon. The other one came out of Vine's expository dictionary. Now, you all can read these definitions. From Thayer's Greek English, it says the self-restraint which does not hastily retaliate a wrong opposed to wrath or reverence. Does not easily succumb under suffering opposed to coward or dependency. Does that really mean anything to you all?
You know, I have to add that when I read this, I thought, come on now, speak English.
Right.
Tell me, you know, tell me really what it means.
That was my
You know,
thought too.
And of course, I mean, I could read this and it means something, but it just didn't resonate right in my heart. I didn't feel it.
And I read it over and over again, and I got the same thing. What does this mean? It binds its own suffering. That quality of self-restraint in the face of provocation, which does not hastily retaliate or promptly punish the acts and its use of God. Endurance and perseverance. The quality that does not surrender to circumstances or succumb under trial. It is the opposite of dependency and is associated with hope. It is not used of God. And what does that mean?
I can't tell you what it means,
Go ahead.
because I had a situation last week at my job where this member of the store, she was very, very, very nasty to me. I mean, as soon as she came up to the counter, my tongue, I didn't say anything. I tried to help her as best as I could, but then when she continued to kind of yell at me, I didn't yell at her, but my tone and my voice changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I screamed, but I have to admit, the tone in my voice, I was trying to let her know I didn't appreciate how she was speaking to me. And I lost my temper, but I didn't lose my temper where it was radical or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it means how long can a person endure? You know how a thermometer is with the mercury?
Yes.
And it slowly goes up?
Yes.
How long can you keep that mercury low before it starts going up until it bursts the bubble?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it kind of means to me about self-restraint.
And you were patient with her.
Yeah.
I was patient.
Yeah. But, you know, just as Linda said, you know, I read this and it was like, what does this mean? What does it mean? So what I did was I went there and I said, patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset.
Yeah, that's what I understand. That I can hear that.
Long suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Having or showing patience in spite of troubles, especially those caused by other people.
Mhm.
Endurance, the fact or power of enduring an unpleasant or difficult process of situation without giving back. And perseverance, steadfastness in something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. Now, I always thought that all of these words, these 4 words, they all meant something different, but they're all interchangeable. Yes.
I see them as 1, 2, 3, 4. It's almost like there are levels to this, and you have to be able to identify each one to get to the next one.
Right, that goes hand.
Right, right,
They go hand in hand.
right,
They go hand in hand because they're not separate.
right, right.
They're not-
Because
But I always
the
thought they were.
perseverance doesn't work if you don't have the patience
Absolutely.
to really handle the difficult situation that is presented by the long suffering in going through it.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Oh, wow.
Absolutely. And that's what I took away from this whole dissertation, if you want to call it that. Because I always thought that they were separate and different, but they do go hand in hand with each other. One question I want to ask you is, what is our obligation to endure? What do you think our obligation is to endure? Why must we endure? Do we have an obligation to endure?
Wouldn't that cause you to stand in the will of God?
Yes, it will.
There's that sometimes says that the reason you're being patient because some things you won't get immediately. See, you're patient along with endurance because you know the word of God, because you know that no matter what is happening, you know that God's got it.
But is that easy?
Oh,
Is that easy to
No.
talk about? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
Why did you go ahead before you?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I don't know if it's an obligation, like we're obliged to do it. I look at it more as a willingness. You know, a willingness to endure, especially if someone is suffering. It seems like obligation means that it's not from the heart. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why would that make sense?
Because we are, and I guess that
Your willingness
obligated,
is-
we're not obligated. We make, okay, we decide to accept Jesus Christ as our personal Savior.
That's all.
We're not obligated to do so. So to endure, this is all part of God's will. So, you know, and maybe I'm going to take that back, that we're not obligated to do so. Because if we're obligated, wouldn't that give us a choice?
Yes, a choice.
So if I've decided to be a child of God and I have accepted him as my personal Savior, and I want to be in his will, then I wouldn't make the opposite choice of not to follow.
Then it becomes an obligation, because then that becomes an obligation to do.
Right.
If
Okay,
we
so
have
it's still a choice.
accepted,
I have made
it's
a
still-
choice to
yes.
follow Christ.
Right. Right.
Okay, so it is an obligation.
So you
To
already
make
did
it
the
their
will.
choice.
Right, you already
Okay.
did the will.
Thank you. We talked that through. I talked that through.
Let's say, for instance, you have a spouse who has been ill for a number of years. You have a spouse who's been ill for a number of years.
Mhm.
Are you obligated to stay?
Yeah,
According to
yeah,
your vow,
because I
according to
made a
scriptures.
vow. And as a matter of fact, that was me.
Yes,
I made a
yes,
vow
because
before God. I said that I
Right.
would.
But is that an obligation? Is that an obligation, or do you do it because you love the person?
It don't matter.
I think at some point it becomes an
It don't
obligation.
matter.
I think at some point, I mean, although you've made the commitment to be with that person, it then becomes an obligation.
But I think it is an obligation through your choice.
Okay.
You
We can
choose to own this obligation.
Okay.
Because it is not of your making, but it is something that you have to act upon. So I choose to
stay there.
Stay there.
All right, what about your wedding vows?
So I have a question. So you're saying it's your choice, but you already made the choice to say I do,
Right.
or the choice to say that I love God and I'm going to follow him. So why teeter on the vow that you made if you've already decided years prior or days prior that this is what you wanted to do? So why would your choice change just because a situation changed?
Well, that's where your patience and your long suffering and
So you're obligating yourself to,
because
so that means that
even
you're
though you
obligating
made
yourself to keep your vow.
even though you made those vows, you made those vows in your human self.
I get it.
Okay, so those vows, you can choose to honor them and submit to them as circumstances present themselves.
But you made that vow before God. So if you're making that vow before God, wouldn't you want to keep your obligation to God for death do us part?
Sickness
And in health?
Sickness and in health. So we changing the vow?
So do we not keep our word to God? Because the vow was given not only to your mate, but it was given to God. That this is what you're going to do.
So you ain't got no.
So when you made the choice to say, I'm gonna stand before God and before this group of people, that was your obligation to keep your mate, who you consider your soulmate, from sickness or health till death do us part. Regardless. Now you can break the vow, but right.
But
So to me, it's still an obligation. Now, if you keep your obligation or not, that's between you and God.
Yeah,
But
but
it's
you
still,
all were saying the obligation was not of God.
Yeah, the obligation was I made a choice with God that I would marry this man for better or worse through sickness and health.
Right.
So if he's sick, then there is no option to walk away from him. I'm going to take care of him till the end.
Okay.
so,
It becomes the obligation.
so then why do some walk away and some stay?
because some decides to break their obligation, some decide to break their vow that they stated before God.
Right.
Some
So not
people
only
make
have
that
they broken
choice.
a vow with God, they've broken it
With their mates,
with their
right.
mate.
But a vow is not an obligation. There's a difference. A vow is not, a vow
There's a contract.
is a contract. A contract in terms of a spiritual contract, it's a word of honor,
Mhm.
okay? But some break their word of honor, right?
Well,
Some break their word of
Some-
honor.
Yeah, they
You're
don't keep
saying
their
that
vow.
they don't keep their vow.
They don't keep their vow.
Some do,
So,
but it doesn't say,
That doesn't
but it
mean that
still
it's
doesn't
not an
mean it's not an
obligation.
obligation.
Just
Because
because
they don't
keep it,
keep their word.
just because they don't keep it, that's just like if you signed a contract for a business. If you didn't follow that contract by the T, that does not mean that it still was not an obligation. That just means you didn't follow it. That's what it means.
that's the definition of obligation.
Okay, but why are you looking that up? Okay, we must learn it, we must go after it, and we must make it a part of our life.
Second Peter,
Mhm.
1:5-7 states, but also for this very reason, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge self-control, to self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness, to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love.
And then we must pursue it. And we must teach it. Because as, you know, those of us that may have families or children, we have to teach them to endure. Because life is not going to always be, as my mama used to say, a bed of roses. It's not always be a bed of roses. So we need to teach it. And why is it that we need it? Why do we need endurance? Or patience?
It strengthens us.
It's not easy.
What did you say, Kim?
It helps to strengthen us.
Mhm. It's needed. I'm sorry.
Share scripture. You asked the
Go ahead.
question about why do we need it. Romans 5. I think we talked about this last week about peace and joy. You're gonna read it. It says about perseverance.
Mhm.
Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have a peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand. And we rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also rejoice in our suffering, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not disappoint us, because God has poured out his love into our hearts by the Holy Spirit whom he has given us. To your question about why do we need it, it builds character. It goes on hope. Sort of like what you were saying about the steps, how
Yeah.
you need one to build on another.
And it's also needed so that we can properly run the race, because it's not going to be easy, you know. And God allows us at times to go through different. I'm getting ahead of myself. Go through different trials and tribulations to make us strong, so that we can persevere. It's needed as an ongoing characteristic of our lives.
For example, an act or course of action to which a person is morally or legally bound, a duty or commitment.
So when we commit ourselves to God, it's an obligation.
That's according to this definition.
It's an obligation. When we have committed ourselves to God, because we have a whole lot of people that walk around and talk about their commitment to God, and they actually have none. You know, but once we have sincerely made a commitment to God, then it becomes an obligation that we gotta have it. We got to have it. It is made possible because of what God has already done for us. And what are some of the things that God has done? Stop reading that. Because what are some of the things that God has already done for us? He's forgiven us.
He's given us life.
I'll read
Go ahead.
Romans 15:5. Now may the God of patience and comfort grant you to be like-minded towards one another according to Jesus Christ. May the God who gives endurance and encouragement give you the same attitude of mind towards each other that Christ Jesus had.
And over in Colossians 1:11, it's a prayer for God's strength in order to have endurance. And 2 Thessalonians 3:5, it is a prayer for God's guidance into Christ's endurance. So we have to also pray for endurance. We have to pray for patience, for peace. We have to pray for it, because it doesn't just automatically come just like that. It doesn't. It's also part of life for those who belong to Christ. So being that we have professed Christ, it needs to become part of our lives. It's a part of being in Jesus. It's one of the ways that love expresses itself. And the talking, the fact of endurance goes hand in hand with verses that command us to have endurance. How does endurance grow? How does it grow?
By going through something.
I'm sorry?
By going through something.
By going through trials and tribulations. Because it's like the more we go through, that's the long suffering. Mhm. Says growth through trials. Suffering produces perseverance. The test of our faith produces perseverance, which must then be allowed to grow and mature. Growth through our efforts to add it to our faith, and growth through encouragement. Because sometimes we need to be encouraged in order for us to get from one point to the next.
And I like hearing it says, patience with others is love. Patience with self is hope. And patience with God is faith.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's hard to have patience with some people sometimes. You know, that we find ourselves wanting them to do things that what we think is the right way. Which is not necessarily the right way, it's just the way that we think that it should be. So this really stood out for me.
We need to have endurance when trials come. Because if not, we would just give in the time. We just give it in. Go ahead.
Romans 12:12. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer.
And endurance is necessary when we have struggles, and that's Hebrews 12:7. We ought to view our trials as a type of discipline. God is using them to accomplish good things in our lives. And endurance is necessary in the worst of trials. Yes, it really is. And that's in Revelations 13:10 and 14:12. Okay. The other thing I'm going to give you, and I wanted to go through this first, but the other thing I'm going to give you is the scriptures that I've used here. I do have them all typed out for you, and I'll give them to you all after, at the end of the presentation. I have the subtitles and the scriptures underneath, and it's all written out for you. You don't have to look up anything. It's there. It's all there. If we are willing to endure our trials, we will be blessed. Once we have passed the test, God will reward us with the crown of life, and that's found in James 1:12. Look at Job and what Job went through. But because he passed the test, what happened at the end?
God blessed him.
God blessed him. God blessed him.
Twice as much as he had.
Absolutely. And if we are able to endure and to go through, we're going to be blessed as well. We're going to be blessed.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Now, in my early Christian walk, when I was going through stuff, I didn't immediately recognize that it was a test, that God was trying to teach me something. I just looked at it as something that I was going through, and I had to get myself out of it. Okay. But now, when things happen, and that's why this job I'm on, for me, it's a huge test platform for God to change my character. some things in my life, learning how to be humble and patient. But I see how different situations are set up, like this person I was explaining earlier. That was a test to see if I was going to lose my temper and go off on her or whatever. But it was a test, and to see if I would pass that test. But if we can recognize when things are coming at us and say, okay, what is God trying to teach me in that moment of time? That's huge insight to be able to recognize that. And that's what I'm learning how to do now.
Right, because Job did not see it as a test at first. And he felt like, I've been faithful. Why are you doing this to me? And that God wasn't helping him quicker in getting him out of this situation. So I think sometimes we think, I've been good. I've been trying to be obedient. Why am I going through this? And then someone's like, I'm like,
What are some of the steps that you found that you're able to recognize the test more? Yeah, how are you able to recognize it? Recognize it.
I view it as a setup. If the devil is trying to get me off track, first of all, it can be a test from God or a setup from the devil to see if I will succumb. But I stay at peace and I think, I say, okay, what's going on here? What's happening here in this situation? And I find that when I stay at peace, or if I don't say something, I allow myself to think and not lose control, give someone else my power. That's what I don't want to do. Based upon how they act, I don't want to lose my power. So one of the greatest things I do is try to be still in that moment and think, what's happening here? And how do I respond? That's what's key for me.
And I think if you think about all of the blessings that you have, and think about when you didn't feel that blessing, that was the lesson you were supposed to learn. So it's like, I'm not feeling it now. What am I not doing? Challenge, a hiccup, a hurt, a pain. All of those things are not to cause you harm, but to wake you up about where you are and what it is you must change or alter or develop to get out of that space. Because God's whole work in you is to grow you. So it is not for you to just lay back and, okay, God, show me what you got. It's not that. He puts you through these different circumstances so you can grow. But you have to recognize that I'm in this circumstance to grow. So I can't stay here and just let it happen to me. Perfect example, my daughter wanted to leave one job because her immediate boss, supervisor, was a terror. And I said, if you don't figure out how to deal with her, you will meet this lady on every job you come to. Sure enough, she left that job, got to another one, nicer job, nicer this, all of that, and got the same kind of supervisor. But she's learning how to deal with this one because she knows she's going to find her somewhere else. So this is just development. And I mean, even the worst of the worst pains, it is still a moment for God is working in you. We don't know what it is, but He's working in you. And that goes with sickness, relationship. Why is this lady in my life? People sometimes walk into your life for a season and And sometimes they feel to stay. But it is how you work it out.
I used to sing this song to myself all the time. Daddy belong. Then when I started saying that, good God Almighty, what they were saying in here. I couldn't stop singing that song. Because in order to make me better, I had to clean up my act. I had to clean up that song. As I said, I stopped singing that song.
All right. We can expect trials caused by those who hate Jesus, but if we endure to the end, we will gain life and salvation. So we have to persevere through it. We've got to be patient, because as long as we stay before God, He's going to see us through it. He's going to sit, and it gets hard sometimes. It gets real hard sometimes. But as long as we continue to stay before God, He will see us through it. Those who remain firm to the end will be saved. You must not perish, but will gain your life. Even if you die, you're still going to gain that life because you persevere through it. A warning: make sure your suffering is for the right reason. It's commendable if you endure suffering for doing what is right. It's no credit to you if you endure suffering for doing what is wrong. Read the scriptures from that.
First Peter 2:20. Are again entangled in them and overcome. The latter end is worse for them than the beginning. First Peter 2:28. For if after they escape the pollutions of the world through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are. That's in our bit.
You will find that on this handout that I am going to give you, some of the scriptures that I wrote came from NIV. Some of them came from the New King James Version. And I did it that way because in some of the scriptures, it uses the word perseverance. In some of them, it uses patience. In some of them, it uses endurance. So, and I wanted to show that they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. Okay. All right. Why is, and I think we touched on it a little bit, why is endurance necessary? You said it. You just said it. Well, she all in my slash. You know. Why is it necessary? Why is endurance necessary?
Can you answer that?
Okay. For spiritual growth and maturity. You just said it. You just said it. The growth of character and hope. Romans 5:4. This is the growth of character and hope. Spiritual maturity was James 1:4. Various characteristics, 2 Peter 1:6.
I'll read something here.
Mm-hmm.
Into knowledge, self-control, into self-control, perseverance, into perseverance, godliness.
Some of the results that can exist now in this present life is one of fruitful life. If we endure, we're going to end up with a fruitful life. But we've got to endure. We've got to. We could be spared from unnecessary trials that could come later, Revelations 3 and 10.
Revelations 3:10. Since you have kept my command to endure patiently, I will also keep you from the hour of trial that is going to come on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth.
Also, its impact on our attitude toward the future, with an emphasis on eternity. We will have hope through endurance, accompanied by the encouraging instruments God gives us in His Word. Again, it's Romans 15:4.
Romans 15:4. For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and in the encouragement they provide, we might have hope.
It enables us to wait for the arrival of the things we are looking forward to, which is our hope. Romans 8:25.
I have a comment.
Yes.
On what Sister Linda just read on. One of my heroes in the Bible is Joseph. And Joseph, he was on a 22-year detour, sold as a slave as a young kid, got thrown out of Potiphar's house, wrongly accused, spent time in the dungeon, and then in 24 hours, God raised him up to be second in command of Egypt. But he went through a lot. And he that was hard. But he never stopped serving God. I'm not saying he was perfect, but he never stopped believing that God would get him out of that circumstance. And God did come through for him after all of that, those trials and everything, you know? He's one of my heroes in the Bible.
One of my favorite, and I know I'm going off this just a little bit, but one of my favorite people is Job. And there have been many of these that I've said, I feel just like Job. I've been through like everything being taken from me, everything that I had, the material things that I had, it was all stripped. And I just could not understand why, but I think now I am the better fool. I am the better fool, because material things don't mean a whole lot of anything to me now. I mean, we had 3 houses, and it was like all gone in a matter of a year. It was all gone, all gone. And I don't know how many of you all know now with what I'm dealing and struggling with. Then you want to talk about endurance.
Go ahead,
And patience. I have ulcers on both my legs. Tuesday, the doctor just declared the right leg healed.
Praise God.
The left leg, he said it's healed. But I have been dealing with this right leg for a whole year.
Yes, yes.
And that's in the hospital, out the hospital, in the hospital. Out, I was in a nursing home. I had to learn to walk twice. Had to learn to walk all over again. But one nurse said to me, she said, but you're still smiling. But you're still, regardless of what you've been through and how it has, put you down, and you've been up, you've been there, you're still smiling. I said, but it's the joy of God. It's the joy of God. And that's all I have to carry with me. So I'll go in for surgery on the 2nd of November on the left leg. They're going to do a graft on the left leg because it's a big old hole in the leg. They're going to close it up. So hopefully it will heal that much faster. He said to me on Tuesday that it is beginning. You can see around the edges where my skin is beginning to grow back. So it's getting there. But when I tell you I've had to endure, you know, and you'll see me now trying to get up out of chairs. It's like my knees are trying to go out now. But I also understand that there are just some things I have to go through. You know, and I often, I'm one, I'll tell you, I'll ask God why. Why am I going through this? You know, I haven't been such the bad person or you know, and I've tried to do things right, you know, but I'm like, why? Why? But it's the endurance, and it's the patience, and it's the perseverance. Because I'm determined that I'm going all the
Because
way.
this was your fruit that you felt you had the least amount of in you is how you are doing this presentation there, and look at you.
I'm telling you, I learned so much doing this. So it's yeah, I did.
And if I can make a comment, I think one of the greatest things while you were going through that, and you still, your countenance, you had a great smile, you were still upbeat. So the people, maybe the people in the hospital, they saw what you were going through, but here this lady is still upbeat. What does she have? Or I want some of what she has. And that will draw people to Christ to see what you're going through and that you're making it. That'll draw people to Christ.
Because when I went in that nursing home, I couldn't walk. And they're like, get out the bed. I'm like, get out the what? I'm like, and do what? But my roommate, when I was in the nursing home, you know, and I had several people come up and they wanted to pray with her. And, you know, they prayed with me, they wanted to pray with her. And she always said no. She always said no. And I kept praying, God. And she had a speech impediment. So it was very hard and very difficult to even understand anything that she was trying to say. And I kept saying, but God, you can do this thing. And you got to do it before I leave. You got to do it before I leave. The day that I was being discharged, she called me to her bedside. And I couldn't hardly understand a word she was saying. But she began to sing, I love you, I love you. And I finished it for her because she couldn't hardly get it out. But I didn't back down on the things that I believed. And I kept telling her, but God. And the same way he raised me up out of this bed, he can do the same for you. Yes, the exact same for you. But she did. That last day that I was there, she sang, I love you, I love you, I love you, Lord, today.
Gave us some hope.
So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So would you say that perseverance and endurance create opportunities?
They do. I think they do. I think they do. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the results that will occur in the future, we will receive what God has promised us in Hebrews, 10:36. We will also receive eternal life. And that's Romans 2:7. We will reign with God. 2 Timothy 2:12.
If we endure, we will also reign with him. If we disown him, he will also disown us.
Okay. Some of the examples to consider. First of all, Jesus is our ultimate example. Because he endured the cross, and how many of us couldn't even start thinking. Start thinking about having to go to the cross. I mean, we have crosses to bear, but can you think? Can you imagine being hung on a cross? For us crazy people. Because we do some crazy things sometimes. But he gave of himself so that we would have eternal life. We are to consider his example so that we will not become discouraged. Hebrews 12:3. Hebrews 12:3, yes.
That says,
Matter of fact, read 12:2 and 3.
okay. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds.
Good. Some of the people who we can use as examples, we've already talked about Job. And then there's John, Revelations 1 and 9. He was companion with us. He endured just like we was. So some of the things I think that John went through was some of the stuff that we're going to go through. And then there's Paul, 2 Timothy 3 and 10. His example was evident to others as he reminded Timothy. So read 2 Timothy 3 and 10.
You, however, know all about my teaching, my way of life.
That was Paul, sorry.
2 Timothy.
Talking about Paul.
You, however, know all about my teaching, my way of life, my purpose, faith, patience, love, endurance.
Some specific things about Paul's endurance. He was willing to endure anything that would benefit the elect, anything that would result in their salvation. How many of us are willing to endure anything?
So you're saying you don't pray for that, huh?
I'm down in the road.
For Paul, he was beaten twice. He spent a day and a night in the sea. He spent time in prison. He was stoned. He was thrown out of cities. So he went through a lot.
He did.
He went through a lot.
And are we willing to go through that stuff? Willingly? His endurance was one of the characteristics that demonstrated that he was a servant of God, 2 Corinthians 6:4.
Rather, as servants of God, we commend ourselves in every way, in great endurance, in troubles, hardships, and distresses.
He endured everything that was necessary in order to demonstrate that he was a genuine apostle of Christ, 2 Corinthians 12:12.
Preserved and demonstrating among you the marks of a true apostle, including signs, wonders, and miracles.
And we also have some groups of people, which were churches, that were good examples of endurance and
perseverance. It was the church in Thessalonica. They were such a good example of perseverance and trusting God that Paul was able to use them as an example for others to follow. And then you have the church at Philadelphia. They obeyed God's command to ensure the trials they experienced. The Hebrew church, originally, they were a good example of enduring great trials. Later, they became discouraged and needed to be encouraged to keep it up. And don't we need that sometimes? We need to be encouraged sometimes. The churches at Ephesus and Thyatira, it seems implied that endurance was a positive characteristic in their lives. Well, are there any questions?
And you can see that with some of the churches today, like, you take Creflo Dollar's church, people do some stuff. The thing about the jet plane, and I think there was something about his family. Yeah, but that was some criticism. He kind of went through it.
He didn't need no jet. He already had one thing. He had one. You want to replace that? Southwest. Hello. You know what I'm saying? You may not get on. Right. Southwest.
And their excuse was that he could get to more people. Well, he was already on TV. He's already on the radio station. So I wasn't understanding what was he talking about, get to more people.
So this is.
Well, he's got a church in New York too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they fly to Africa to support ministries over there too. So that's.
So you thought it was a good thing?
No, I'm not giving an opinion.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying you asked why did he need a jet plane, but that's why I was explaining why. Because I know
And he went to New York every Sunday too.
he has a church in New York.
Every Sunday.
It's his satellite church.
So in that jet, he can get there in 20 minutes.
But a satellite church would mean you can get it on the internet.
Right.
But he as the pastor,
He got to be in person.
we go there personally sometimes.
Oh, so it is
A church.
It's a church.
edifice. It is an actual building. Okay.
Yeah, he has another church up there. It's like Fred Price.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I took satellite to mean that it was
Okay.
in cyberspace.
Oh, I see. He took a lot of criticism for that, but there was something else about his family, his daughter or something.
His daughter was talking back to him and he tried to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
He running back and forth to New York, and here's his family in disarray. How much is that? None.
His family running around.
In disarray.
Okay,
So,
I have a few questions, and if y'all could get into groups, maybe groups of 3. We have time.
Let me see.
We have 30 minutes almost. And just so y'all can talk. And the rest of you guys can do some homework.
so what are we doing? What do you want us to do now?
Okay. Maybe we can, are you gonna join us?
Of course. She gonna take.
No, you're not gonna answer all that. You have a homework.
Oh,
Which you don't answer.
This is homework stuff.
No, we're gonna get into groups, so let's see, how many folks are here? So we can do 4. And, okay, so Tierra, is that, no, it's not. It's, it is, yeah. Okay. And 3, 4, Okay, the first question, you guys can answer, and
So-
discuss and answer.
so-
And the second question, you four can answer.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
You yourself.
Yeah.
And what question are we answering?
The first one.
So,
Uh-huh.
so I was,
Timothy 4:5.
we're doing the second question.
The second question.
I want to encourage you.
Okay.
See what's going
Kim.
Is it still recording? Uh-huh.
Am I blocking you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
How is love connected to patience? Okay, everybody don't holler at one time.
Well, according to the scripture, it says, love suffers not. It suffers not. Not suffers not. And it's kind. It doesn't envy. It's not prideful. It's humble. Doesn't reveal itself unseemly.
Okay, I have done parade stuff. What was yours?
Um, my version says, it doesn't want it. This is
Blonded. I have New King. Blonde.
B-A-U-N-T-E.
You know that word? Vaunt?
Vaunt.
You know that
So
word?
Paulette, what did yours say?
Parade.
Yeah, that's good.
The same word.
Same word.
The same word.
This is King James.
I was getting deep now. What is blonde? Because I was thinking blonde.
That could be it too.
Yeah. Okay.
Prideful.
What's your word?
Love is patient, love is kind, it is not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it is no record of wrong.
Right.
Love is not the
Yes.
It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres.
Keep your head off the track and go along.
You write this down.
No.
What is your six? Does not rejoice in iniquity.
And I think you can write with it.
Love is not delighted in evil, but rejoices with the truth.
Okay.
Right, all that, right?
It's amazing.
No, I can't read. No. Come on, yeah.
And does not demand its own way. It is not irritable and it keeps no record of wrong. It does not rejoice about justice, but rejoicing in God. Love never gives up, it never refuses vainly, always endures every circumstance.
And just got a.
Oh, it's for the
He just had to.
Well, just like the picture said.
I called here, I see what- I called here.
About love,
Do you have patience with others as love? Would you like to do that?
Hold confident with patience with God and faith. Faith. The good news is that second question. I did a good fight. Yeah. I finished my course. I have kept the faith. Right. And that's what it is. So, with patience, love with friendship, it really bears on. I go through a whole process. It's really nice.
Oh, he's just holding on.
Yeah, you gotta have patience with because
No matter how difficult the fight was, keep fighting. That's a
Especially in marriage. You married, when the person married a good husband and others. You don't love a person.
right, they get older.
Right.
They lose their patience really
They
bad.
lose their looks.
They lose their looks.
Did you understand?
No. I'm still down.
What fruit of patience mentioned in
What fruit?
patience? So is it long suffering?
No, that was number one.
Okay.
That was the key sign in Paul here.
Okay.
7-8 tells you what he said. What a good life.
Gentleness and kindness. It says that,
Okay.
I just know. I got one on Friday.
Patience.
Father-in-law used to do that.
No, you said kindness. Yeah. And good.
one of the fruits is
Gentleness. My mom used to tell me that.
And faithful.
and goodness and faithfulness. Yeah.
She
So that's
just
another
looked at my girlfriend, I heard her.
Also, no.
They knew him. They knew him. So she was
Go to support that girl.
She was going to support the girl. I said, Mom, stop supporting
Is peace in there?
We read. Yeah.
Scripture in this scripture.
Avoid.
You can say verse 7 is being peaceful because you're going to generate things, meaning that you're going to try to keep the peace of the thing.
Guys, in about 4 minutes.
With Christ.
We can stay here past 8 o'clock, I don't care.
No, we
See?
Can we do it? I didn't say that.
So there's a joy. Hopefully not. Like her
You see joy?
when you hope in something, do you
Right.
have-
Yeah, you just posed that question, what
do
did
you have joy when you hope?
Did y'all tell us this question? What forward?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was feeling that.
when you're really hoping for something.
You know, what is the person?
Every time we try to lady, we gotta go to this funeral. I could work this week. I was getting like 4:00 in the morning, I was in DC. Four of them told me to go to the funeral. Oh, hell.
So it does not rejoice in iniquity.
I want to get that. You know, they
Unrighteousness, you're not gonna be happy with someone.
Okay, well, we don't have one for, self-control and joy.
Self-control, verse 5, doesn't behave in sin.
Yeah, I know.
So we don't have joy.
I think it's joy.
For old people like me, meant that you have a person gone.
Not if it's your
That's what red means.
version.
One minute, 1 minute.
So, yeah,
She made graduation.
that's what red means. Red means, if you put the song in red, it means you're happy.
I would say
We always wear black or white.
Yeah.
When someone comes to see
Joyce is in the church.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your joy.
Comes to
So they're all here?
They're
all here.
But something was.
Okay, we good. We good.
Are y'all ready?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, they said we've been ready a long time.
You know, we tell y'all. We talk about losing character with each other. Y'all.
Next time, we gonna make sure y'all
You notice that? Oh, y'all saw that being serious.
Okay, so who's the spokesperson for?
Oh, girl.
Tiara?
Tiara.
Regina is.
Okay, let's.
Okay, Regina, you might answer.
So number one,
Can you read, 2 Timothy 4:24, 5-8?
Okay. But you keep your head in all situations, endure hardships, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing.
so the first question is, what encouragement is Paul giving to Timothy? So we said, go ahead, Jenny. It was most of it came out of verse 5.
Here was to keep cool when you are jarred or and jolted by people or circumstances. Don't react quickly in any work of ministry that you undertake. Keeping a clear mind in every situation make you morally alert to temptation, resistance to pressure, and vigilant when facing heavy responsibilities.
We also said in out of verse 7, no, I think it's 7 or 8. No matter how difficult the fight is, keep fighting. Basically, never give up. That's what he was telling them.
Right.
And the second part of our question says, as Paul nears his departure, what allows him to persevere? That came from, our answer comes from verse 7 and 8.
Okay. The good news is that the heavenly reward is not just for giants of the faith like Paul, but for all who eagerly looking forward to Jesus Christ's second coming. Paul gave these words to encourage Timothy and us that no matter how difficult the fight seems, keep fighting. When we are with Jesus Christ, we will discover that it was all worth it.
Thank you. Okay, who's the spokesperson for?
Paulette.
You didn't know?
I only got to learn how to not take notes.
Can you
Would
read
someone
First
read, 1 Corinthians 13:4-7?
1 Corinthians 13:4-7. This is the NIV version. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres.
Wow. How is love connected to patience? Love connection to patience. Love suffers long, is kind, doesn't envy, doesn't parade, does not puff up, doesn't behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices, in truth. And it bears all things, and believes all, hopes for all, and all that one can endure. And our second question was, what fruit of patient love is mentioned in these verses? And we found them all. Long suffering, endurance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, meekness, peace, joy, self-control, and peace. Happiness.
Thank you. That was good. Okay, now the others, if you like, during your own personal time, you can answer the other questions. But one that I want to leave you with, that I want you to ponder and think about, is number 6. And I wouldn't necessarily write this down, but I might just keep it in my head. It says, write down the initials of fellow Christians with whom you have little or no patience in the reason. And number 7 says, what will you do to love them as Paul teaches in 1 Corinthians 13:1-13? So that's what we'll do. You guys have any questions?
Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Oh, yeah.